Good morning and welcome and Happy New Year. I'm Bob Pace. I'm your host, and we have a secret. It's called How to Fight CPS and Win. And this show is addressing issues regarding child protection services and what they do and what they don't do from various places across the USA. It may be called other names, it may be called DCS, and there's other names there. But anyway, it's a branch of social services that deals with the protection of our children. Social services is an agency that is set up by the federal government to help out people in need, basically, housing, food, job, and so forth. Um, when you come into this country, you're given social services right away. You don't have to be a citizen to get social services to help you. And a branch or department within is called the Child Protection Services. And that particular entity deals with how to protect our children and so forth. Now, I usually have guest speakers from time to time. And yesterday we had one that was a really hard case on this woman. She was a respectable woman with a nice home, and she had a husband, and she had three children, and all three children were out of her home, and she's been fighting for a couple years, and she'll be definitely coming back. Oh, good morning, Tiffany.
Hi, sorry about that.
No problem, and welcome. I'm just giving kind of the flavor of the show to our audience.
Okay.
And I'll get ready to start you soon about your particular case.
Okay.
For those that are listening, we have a phone number, 888-888-6582, that you can call in and schedule a time to meet with our attorney, Vincent W. Davis, who is a family law attorney. And his background is strong with the family matters and getting kids back. He's an advocate of how they get kids back. He does this all across the country. And he also offers a consultation to talk to you. He'll talk to you for 30 minutes and tell you the strategies of how to fight your case, and maybe you can hire him and retain him as your attorney. It's really important that when we're in uh, uh, CPS, and myself, I speak from experience, so I've gone through it. I'm still going through it 7 years later. I was in the system for 3 years, and 4 years is still going on. But anyway, from time to time, we have a guest speaker who will share her story or his story. In this particular case, her name is Tiffany Radley,
Yes,
and
correct.
we don't give out precise names or locations. It's all right to say the state you're in, or if you're in southern part of the state or northern part of the state, but we don't use names. It's all right to say sons and daughters and husband one, husband two, or whatever the case may be. But it's very important that you feel comfortable, that you're able to sort of vent a little bit of what you're doing, and maybe there's some ideas or some suggestions I can make that will help you on your trail with your dealings with CPS. So, with further ado, I will go ahead and let you go ahead and start your story.
Okay. Okay. Well, as most cases, I'm sure there's a lot to it. They're very difficult and complicated case, but I first started my case in 2021, beginning of the year. Or not, I'm sorry, 2020. My daughter was staying in the home with me throughout the time. It's about a year and a half later. I had another daughter. Just kind of get you caught up quickly here. I don't know where to start. CPS
Just
came
take
in,
your
got
time.
involved.
Don't feel rushed. Just take your time. Okay, you got
Okay.
plenty of time.
All right. They came and they got involved. They were just doing home visits. I had two workers, my FSRP worker and then my case worker for the CPS, who very rarely came. We never saw him. My worker I had, I got very close with her. Actually, I did like her. She advocated for me. Through the case, I did everything they asked me to. I completed drug and alcohol treatment successfully. I followed all the recommendations. My recommendation was for me not to live in the home with my mother anymore, which because we were too close and I needed to be independent. My problem with that was I worked evenings as a server. My mom watched the girls. I paid half the bills. I questioned them, I think is what the problem was. I questioned them and they didn't like that. Why I could not be living in the home with my mother. She's like a roommate and a babysitter, you know. Um, they ended up putting the girls in my cousin's care. They took them from me. I failed a drug screen. I failed two within 2 years. I failed one, and they removed my first daughter, my 4-year-old now. They moved her first, put her in my cousin's home. After I had my baby, they removed her. She's now 2. They put her in my cousin's home as well. I had unlimited visitation as long as my cousin or my mom supervised, which was offensive to me because I've never been a threat or danger to my child, I felt like, but I followed the rules. They decided they put a drug patch on me. I did not use during that time period, except for I did take a pain med that did not show up in the drug screen. They told me that the patch showed I was dirty for meth, which was not true. I told them that I had not used. They left the patch on me for over 30 days. It was falling off. It looked horrible. I told them that they could hair stat me, drug test me. Something was wrong with the test. It wasn't correct. And they were just like, we're done with it. But prior to that, I had failed 2 drug screens in the 2.5 years, about 2.5 years. They terminated my rights. My cousin was going to adopt them. Then they'd still be in my life. The judge even said that the worker told me one time, he's like, Tiffany, you're a great mother. There's nothing I could tell you to change it for your parenting. You could teach me a thing or two. But the problem is you procrastinate and you're not punctual. And I was taken back. I was like, you're going to take my children from me because I'm procrastinating. I'm not punctual. What? And that's what their final decision was. And they were afraid I would not take them to doctor's appointments or I would miss appointments with them.
Okay. Can we go back to the beginning before they took away your children? Like, how did this all start? Were you married? Did you have a boyfriend? Or
I had a boyfriend at the time. It was my 4-year-old's father.
Okay.
Me and him were separated. We're not together anymore. And one weekend I went with him, hung out with him. I used that weekend.
Was it in the beginning, like when she was like 1 year old? Were you guys
She was about a year old then, yeah. About 9 months old, 9 months or so.
9 months old, and you guys were together as a couple, right?
No. We after I had her, I was not with him. We were on and off, I guess, kind of.
Oh, so when you became pregnant, was he there during your pregnancy? Or he didn't want anything to do with the child?
He was incarcerated at the time.
Oh, it was a person.
He spends a lot of time incarcerated. He's in and out of jail a lot. So he's in there now, prison.
So is he like a bad boy then?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So this was your first child with him?
Yes.
Okay, and you said you have 2 children, right?
4 total.
4 total. Now, was it the same guy or different guys?
Different. The older 2 kids, they're ages 20 and 17.
Oh, okay, so you had these children a way long time ago. Do you have any problem with raising them?
Nope. Everything was always been great with them. They're great kids. I raised them by myself. That's I guess kind of I fast forward through the beginning part of it all because I feel like it's
I'm just
what's
trying
done
to
is done.
The kind of person you are, it helps a little bit. So
right. I mean, I was a drug and alcohol counselor for many years, and I went through a hard time in my life, and I met the wrong person. And I was a pharmacy technician for 4 years. I was a preschool teacher for Head Start for 5 years.
Okay.
So I know how to raise kids.
And you lived apart from your mom back then, right?
Yeah, I always had lived on my own. For the first time ever, I had a roommate, and it was great to have someone split the bills and the chores with me and help with the kids. Right. I've never had that.
Yeah, okay.
And so that's why I kind of just fast forward through all that because what I wanted to bring to where I'm at now is the problem is my rights have been terminated. Then they removed them from my cousin, and they did that on purpose because they didn't want me to be able to have any say in it. Once I was terminated, they said, I am no longer family. My family is no longer their family, and what we have to say doesn't matter. Placed them with the foster home last year, a week before Christmas. I was crying.
That's hard. I understand.
Nobody has had any contact with them for a year. They're 4 and 2. They don't know. My oldest daughter's 20. She has been trying to get custody of them. She wants to adopt them if possible.
Okay.
State laws say my 17-year-old in federal laws say that you should have contact with their siblings. They're refusing. The worker tells us that my 4-year-old's in therapy and won't even talk to the worker after a year because she took her from her family. Um, Me and the 4-year-old's dad were out of town. Craziest story in the world. We happened to go out of town last June. We stopped at a rest stop, um, 30 miles right from home, and we ran into the girls there.
Oh, wow.
And so I ran up to the family and I explained who I was, and I just held her and hugged her. And hardest thing I've ever had to do was hand my baby off to these people who she's screaming, don't take me with you. Please take me with you.
Yeah.
I'm telling her I can't because I'm supposed to be there to save her, and I couldn't save her that day.
Yeah.
I promised her I was going to come for her one of these days, and I haven't
Well,
stopped fighting since.
now, okay, there's steps that went along there. What initially were these two girls, or excuse me, these, I'm getting a little confused. You have four young
Right.
children and two older ones, or
No,
no,
4 total.
four total, two older ones,
Yep,
and
20,
yeah,
17, 4, and 2.
okay, the 4 and 2 is where the problem is right now. Your
Right.
17 and 20-year-old are okay then, right?
Yeah, I have them still.
Okay, so the 4 and 2-year-old, um, what I mean, how did it first? How did the CPS get involved at first?
Someone reported that I was using, and I
Okay,
didn't know what I know now, and I
yeah,
agreed.
yeah. Well, by law, they are required to investigate all allegations, and I
Right.
hate to say it, you are guilty until you're proven innocent. It isn't like the other law when you're doing a
Yeah.
civil matter where you're innocent till you're proven guilty. So right away they want to do that. So they alleged that was it neglect?
Yes,
Uh,
they put it for neglect, which was confusing to me because why they even had a case. I never used at my home. I've never used around my kids. I left the home. My kids were with my mom safe. I used, I sobered up, and I came home sober. So my kids were, my daughter was a 4-year-old only at the time.
yeah,
She was never around me when I've used.
right, right. Well, they want a full time. Usually, a 2 and a 4-year-old want a full time parent, and
Right.
parents that do things that our society recognizes um, that can be harmful to a child. Is that's why they're coming down on you.
Right.
So they're getting you for neglect. Now, did they take away your child right away, or what state is this, by the way?
Iowa.
Iowa. Okay, all right.
Nope, they didn't take her right away. I started treatment. COVID came along around that time, and that was a
Right.
big issue. My therapist I had would never was readily available. We were doing all over the phone visits, and I would call her, and she wouldn't be there, and then she'd reschedule with me, and then it happened again and again. And in the reports, it never showed I didn't show up because I always showed up on my end. It showed I
Right.
only did 2 phone calls with her in 6-month period.
Oh, okay.
But so then they came down on me for that. But I said if it was me not showing up, she would have wrote that in her thing, in her report. But she never wrote that in her report because I was available.
Was that your case plan? Did they? I mean, I
just to just to do outpatient. Yeah,
okay. So they had a determination because you took drugs. They took away your children. Did they take away in the first week, the first month? And when did they take your children away?
it was about a year and a half into it.
Okay,
two
so
years 2 years.
they waited a few years before they took away your children. Then,
Correct.
and during that time, were there corrective measures they're asking you to do or anything? Or
To complete treatment, which I did so. I went to my outpatient. I successfully
okay,
completed it. Once I finished that, then they said um, they wanted me to move out of my mom's house, and I
why
talked to them
was
about it
that? Why did she want you to move out of your mom's
because
house?
they wanted to show that I could be independent. Because if my mom were to pass away one day suddenly, who would help me with the kids? I needed to learn. So I've
Right.
taken care of them by myself.
But you have a 17 or 20-year-old that are contribute to
Right,
society. I
and
mean,
are great
they're
kids.
not in trouble, right?
Nope, nope, they're great
Okay,
kids.
so that should prove to them that, when push comes to shove, you can work. You say you have a background in medical technician and a
Uh-huh.
drug, and you also a counselor, I guess. Is that
Right.
thing? Okay, so they were questioning you on that. Okay, go on, and then
Um, what's the other thing? I cannot think of the other thing. It was we were getting nothing done. I feel like I don't have a case plan because even when I was like, what are I had no expectations set for me. It was just meet with my people every week. The worker would come in, everything was good.
you
She
have anything in
recommended
writing? Anything in writing?
Nope, just follow their recommendations. I get a paper every, saying these what I'm supposed to do, and I finished everything on the thing.
Okay.
Um, Even the FSRP workers company said, why has there been no attempts for reunification? Why aren't we moving the kids into visits, or why is she having unsupervised or overnights? And they just nobody gave me answers. They just kept pushing it off until
Did you
termination.
have representation? Did you have a lawyer?
Yep. And my lawyer was useless. In court, I was writing things down to her. I'm like, ask him why he said about him saying I'm a good mother. How are you going to terminate my rights if I'm a good mother? So she asked him, and then they did nothing. I don't even know how to explain it. It felt like we were just sitting there waiting.
Okay. Was this a public defender or a
Yes,
paid?
yes,
Okay. That's the problem. You may not know, but most
right. I know
public
now.
defenders, and I hate to say it, are with so many cases. It's very normal for them to have 20 cases at one time. If you can imagine handling 20 complicated cases, they're not going to spend the
Right,
time they need. Also, the sad part is my experience. I'm always speaking from California, but I've talked to other people around the country in our courts and so forth. The judge who is elected official, and by the way, I always tell people to go out and vote because it's very important you vote because you get the right judge in the right court. Too many of the judges are are terrible judges. My judge knew all about how collisions with repairing cars, but knew nothing about families or kids or anything. So anyway, so you have a judge there. You have the childs, the two children will have attorneys. You will have an attorney. That's three. And so serves as an attorney. Suddenly you have like five or six people, and they're all like a little buddy team in court. You're not
yes,
in the courtroom. You're out in the hallway waiting, and hopefully that your guy that you have or girl is representing you is going to fight for you. And they'll make deals, and it's terrible.
that's
The
what they were
court
doing.
is so bad, and I imagine that's what they were doing because that's so typical of everybody I talk to. I keep waiting for a story that someone says it worked successfully, but I've yet to hear successful stories. Um, with that all being said, uh, did you try to change public defender and get somebody that would fight for you, or
I made a few calls, and everybody kept telling me that, oh, she's the best that there is. I'm like, that scares me if that's the best that there is. Um,
yeah?
so
And of
I
course,
tried,
you had
and
no money from family or friends to hire. Yeah.
I tried even now to hire an attorney after all this is said and done. Basically, I want my kids just back with family, if anything. I have a friend who went down and put in a motion to intervene. Um, I've done as much research as I can, and I learned about fictive kin. Doesn't have to be their family, but not blood. Um, she's my best friend. She's willing. She's wealthy. She comes from, they have a beautiful home. Her husband, they'd be perfect for the girls. Even that I could still have them in my life. And they told her she needs to prove she's blood relation before she could do that. Well, the
Oh,
blood relative, the daughter of mine who's 20, she works. She has a car. She's 20 years old. Just went and got a 2020 Chevy Malibu by herself from the car lot. No cosigner. She's a good girl, and they just keep turning her away, and I don't know where to go. They told her that since my rights are terminated, they are no longer considered family, and they'll
wow.
basically never see the girls again.
Well, you can still fight. It's a hard situation where you're at because in the beginning that's where you need to get them. They once they got your child in their possession, and I hate to tell you this, that the arm of Social Service, the Child Protection Agency, is a money making business. They
Right.
are $1 billion business. They have to feed their coffers. They want to make money because the more they keep the children in their possession, the longer they keep them in foster care or whatever care they have, the more money they receive from the state and federal.
And
And
funding and grants and whatnot.
that's how they make their money.
Yep.
And it's a money making business. It isn't where their main goal that should be is how to reunite a family. That's the bad, sad part things. They never have families come together after the incident to discuss or talk about the issues and see what can be done if all the family members are present. They try to put it, and they think little young children don't know what's going on or what's not saying, but that's not true. They're so precocious. They're traumatized like this. I have an
Right.
18-year-old son, and he's still traumatized by that. My 24-year-old son is still traumatized by this. My daughter at 12 was ripped from my mother, from my wife and I arms, and that was a sad thing when she was divorced and her parents and seal her birth
Right.
certificate and change her name. They're so gun ho of having the child uh, eliminate from you. They teach skills in foster care that is horrendous. Things like don't hug your parents, don't show any love to your parents, don't put your arms around it, don't show any affection. Well, a children needs affection from their parents, and you as a mother are a good mother. I mean, as I say, you've gotten two children raised. Maybe you made some wrong choices with the guys you're seeing. Maybe you've made some mistakes with some of the things you did, but you're willing to have them corrected. You've done some corrective measures.
Right.
So now they've told you that you no longer unification, that they've now formally taken your children away,
Yes.
and they kind of lead you on thinking that you can still get them back. What has their public defender told you about this?
I can't get any return calls from her. I told her that the judge's orders were that for me to have them in my life always. That's why they were with family. What happens now? I wrote the judge even. I wrote and asked what I could do to stop visits, even though my rights are terminated. No one will return to anything. No one will return any
They're
answers.
so cruel to human beings, one another. I tell
And
you,
beyond cruel.
so
I don't even know how. I don't know how they expect people to live their life without their child.
it is. It is really. I mean, I right now, I miss my daughter every moment of my life. She's 21 now, and from a distance, I encourage her brothers to see her, only because they're her sister. Even though she's divorced from them, she doesn't have any brothers and sisters now because the court says once you
Right.
divorce your mom and dad, you divorce your brother, sister, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, everything. So
I told my 20-year-old that you're no longer those girls are no longer your family. And she's like, "What can I?"
yeah,
She's asked what she could do to visit them. The worker has done bring us this or do this. Everything she's asked my daughter to do, she's done. And then I just don't think it's healthy for her to see you now. And Morgan's like, "What do you mean? I've been doing everything you asked. Like what?" And my 17-year-old, like, what can he do to see his siblings? I'm just trying to hope that there's a loophole, I guess, in this that I can find to get them back with our family.
yeah. Well, the biggest thing is you need to somehow um, get someone who advocate for you, that will help you, that knows the system. It's like a doctor. If you have a wound or you have a sickness, you need to see a doctor.
Right.
You're not good enough to take care of your wound or sickness. People do self remedies. I've been fighting a cold now for a week, but still, it's something that I was really tempted to go see a doctor because I wasn't getting better, but my cold's a little bit better. And then, of course, you were right during that COVID thing, so
Yeah.
that's when they had limited time to work with people because everybody was in going into hiding. So your last correspondence was when? Do you,
Last week. I've been writing the judge like at least every week or every other week. I keep
right.
consistently writing him,
Well,
hoping something.
one thing you can do that will help. A lot of people forget this is you go to the county clerk and ask for copies of all the documents. If you're
I did
low
that. And
income,
they told me I can't have copies of nothing. They told me that
yes, you can. Yes, you can by law. That it's records. You can ask for
because
copies of
I said
everything.
my name is in it. Why can't I have any records? I wanted copies of all my records from before what happened, and they told me they cannot. They won't give me anything. So I
They
didn't know who to
will.
turn to after that.
They will. They will. You have to talk to a supervisor. You
Okay,
have to sometimes go over their head. Now, if you don't have the funds to make the copies, they
what should I
will.
do?
If you're low income, they will do it for free. I had to
Okay,
do mine. Mine were 12 inches thick, and
okay, ours will be.
yeah, and I go through page by page and use markers, and then anything that was important, I'd highlight in yellow. Anything that I knew it needed to be addressed in court, I highlight in orange. So you can do that, but you need to build your case. You need to go into your case and find out things that maybe they made a mistake or they did something there. Um, there's also support groups too that can help, and by you talking on the show, that helps too. Now, can you uh, tell us what it was like to have? I mean, did they come into your home? I mean, how did it
They
show up unannounced or what?
never show up unannounced. I always knew they're coming. It was crazy because the lady who came once a week with me for an hour, she came very close, and her recommendations were for me to keep the girls to stay with me. And then the
Okay.
worker who came once a month for an hour supposedly, but he'd stay the longest visit he had was 8 minutes 1 month.
Okay.
He's has the most say in it. During the courts, the worker who knows me was asked to sit out in the hallway because she was advocating for me. They didn't like it. Um,
Wow.
and the ones who know nothing about me were the ones making the decisions. One time they said Tiffany wasn't home when we went there. She probably has a car, and all of a sudden they're talking about I have a car and I'm out because I have a license. They were talking about I have a car and I'm out driving around with my girls. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like I learned one thing is family court is not fact based. It is opinion based, and they can bring anything that they want into it and say whatever they pull out the sky, and that's what it is. And I can't even talk in
Yeah.
the courtroom. They act like, we're talking to you.
No, you
I have
got to
no
be
say
out
in
in the
anything.
hall. Yeah, I know. You have to talk through your attorney.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of it is because there's emotion involved, and the reason why the courts do that is so there's no yelling and screaming and emotions and crying
Right.
and stuff there. But the sad part about it is that the judge, the elected official, is usually not someone who has a family law background
Right.
or has any kind of know about families or probably doesn't have any children himself or herself. So it is a tough matter. Now, at first, did they the thing look at it? Did they do all the steps? Because maybe there's steps they omitted. Maybe there's something there. I mean, there's even things called does your child or do you guys belong to an Indian tribe? It's probably too late to talk about it now, but usually people that belong to Indian tribes, the tribe takes care of their own. They can't. The government
Right.
cannot go into their tribe, and if a child gets endangered, the child's turned over to the tribe, and they will go ahead with their own
Right.
social workers and try the justice. Of course, that wasn't the case in the Rosebud Reservation up in South Dakota. The Lakota Sioux are terrible up there. So
I call
anyway,
the ombuds. How do you say? It? I say it wrong. Ombudsmans for children.
what is it called again?
Ombudsman or ombudsmans.
You mean a person that's kind of works as an advocate or something, or
Yeah, and they make sure like I know like prison system has it for if they're doing something wrong to you. They think it's for like city officials, government officials. They oversee it. It's OMBUD,
hmm,
something
I
like
don't
that.
know too much about that.
I called them and they basically told me the only hope I have in it is my daughter getting them. My 20-year-old trying to get them. She was supposed to go do
Yeah,
um
yeah,
file, but they just keep shutting her down too. And I tried to look for an attorney. The cheapest attorney I found in this area, which wanted $15,000 down just to take a look at it, and I can't
yeah.
afford
That's
it.
retainer. That's typically speaking 15,000 is
That's
retainer
crazy,
and like that. But it's like a doctor. A doctor won't do anything unless you got medical insurance, and
right?
so that's really kind of
Yeah,
it's kind of it's sad, but that's reality. I had I had to use all my savings, and my parents they were dying at the time I was going through my mess, so it was really tragic. But um, I don't want you to give up about that. Can you share with the readers like what kind of did you take any parenting classes or any?
and I asked them. I said, okay. I told the worker. I said, what do I need to work on as a parent? Because he always was talking about changing me as a person and me as a person, and and even if I were to lay around and my mom paid all the bills and I didn't do anything, who cares as long as my kids were taken care of? I try
Right.
to tell them like we're here to make sure my kids are healthy, and taken care of. Do you feel that they're not? What should I work on as a parent? And he says that there was no recommendations for any parenting classes. That's when he said, "You're a great mother, Tiffany. There's nothing I could teach you that you don't already know. You could probably teach us a thing or two because you're such a good mother." And then in the same breath, you can say you want to terminate my rights. He goes, "My worry is you're not punctual and you procrastinate. You might let the girl's insurance expire and you won't take them to a doctor's appointment." Where they've never missed a doctor's appointment. Where is this coming from? Like, how can you just make up some far fetched possibility could maybe happen? And then that's what they based it off of. That's what my rights were terminated for.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Tiffany, I hate to say it, there are some bad parents out there. There is truth to the matters, but sometimes the child protection people um, use a one isolated case and think all parents are like that, and
Right.
all parents abuse and neglect uh, or exploit their children. See, it's three things that they look for: abuse, neglect, and exploitation. That's where you have to fall in one of those three areas. And of course, abuse is that when you physically do harm to a child, excessive corporate punishment. Domestic violence can be yelling with your partner in front of a child. That could be considered abuse. You know, pouring hot water on them,
Right.
excessively punishments, and those kinds of things. Now, neglect. That's where they get in there, where the child isn't fed, isn't clothed, isn't housed, is not warmth, doesn't go to school, it's time for school. I mean, your children are still young, but neglect is when they're abandoned, left at home for hours on end if they need their diapers changed or anything like that. That's neglect. And then exploitation is when a child is used sexually, either
Yeah.
for gratification or for exploitation by taking pictures and stuff like that. Those are the areas that CPS is entrusted to follow through with. And every story, like if a teacher recognizes something, a professional, a policeman, or they can call it in. They have to, by law, report things. They may not be true, but they have to call them on that. So what triggered I still trying to understand what triggered them to be so harsh on you. Is it because of your choice of boyfriends,
I
or
think maybe, and they have a bad reputation, which he wasn't even around her. I think it's because sometimes I spoke up for myself. They would tell me to do this, and I'd say I question things, and the reason I question them is I need to understand why it's easier for me to do something if I know why it's asked of me. Like
yeah?
moving out of my mom's house. Why do I need to move out of there? Like independent living. Why I am living? I said, what is independent living? You pay your own bills. I pay my own bills here. And I questioned things and they didn't like that. My worker, the first thing he told me when he started was he here's the problem with him is he was an ex-cop. He told me he's like, I used to be a cop. He kept repeatedly telling me this. I'm like, where's this going? He came in there with the mentality of Mike the worker, let's catch Tiffany the criminal versus Mike the worker, let's help Tiffany change. Let's help Tiffany. Let's listen to Tiffany. Let's be better for help her better herself. He My therapist told me that she applied once for a probation officer job and they turned her down and she was qualified. She didn't understand. They said, it's because when you come in this field with your heart is in a certain place. If you come in as an officer, you can't be soft to the criminals because that's not what you're trained. Or a therapist that comes in learning to listen and to help, she can't go be a probation officer or a PO because she's not going to be able to be strong enough. She's going to let them get away with too much because she's trying to help them. Um, I think he just came in as I was one of his first clients, his first patient or whatever you call him. First, I don't know, whatever I was to him, client, I guess. And he wanted to put his foot down with me and be so strict with me and every little thing. He just, I don't know, because the other worker thought I should keep the girls and didn't see a problem with anything, but he didn't. He didn't feel that way. I guess I don't know.
Well, did you try to maybe change and ask for another
Yeah,
caseworker?
I asked for another worker and they shot that down right away. They told me no. There were no other workers available. Everybody's cases were loads were full. They're not doing that. They don't care. They're just like, we're not doing that. They just push me and brush me away.
And the attorney, at any step of the way, did he do anything for you, or is he just?
No, nothing. I could barely even ask questions. No, the first time I had court, I hadn't even ever till the second or third time of court, I never even spoke with her.
That's
Like she
typical.
knew
That's
nothing.
typical. Yeah, they usually.
I'm in the courtroom writing notes on the piece of paper telling her what to ask them during court or what to bring up. She had, but she did say, Tiffany has been I was passing my UAs. I completed drug treatment successfully. My therapist there had great recommendations. The FSRP worker, good recommendations. And they said, no, the procrastination and
When you went to
the
court, what did they find you guilty of?
um, for the
What was
neglect.
the charge? Was it neglect? They said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what were the things you neglect with your child?
Um, there was no other explanation of that. It was just for neglect.
They didn't go any detail about that in the report.
Just that I was using, which was away from the home, never near the child. But I was,
You're using drugs, illegal
yeah,
drugs. That's
yeah,
what it is. Yeah,
yeah.
when you have children that are young children, you're not supposed to use any kind of illegal drugs. In fact, that is probably one things that gets a lot of the women
Yeah.
or men in a lot of serious
There was
problems.
even when I filled out one of my drug screens, I had offered. I asked to go to. We have a treatment facility here where I'm from. It's called Women's and Children. You could go there with your kids, and that's where most time when you go. And I asked to go there, and he said absolutely not. We've already talked about it, and you are not going there. And I was like, why would you turn that down? And he's like, because you just trying to find the easiest way to get your kids back. Well, of course I want my kids back right away. And he did not, because if you go there, they have to place your kids there with you. So he told me that wasn't an option because he didn't want my kids there with me.
Mm, mm,
It
mm.
makes no sense to me. I don't know.
Well, again, he knowing that the driving force is green money, and
My
they
worker
want
told me that.
to get out.
Unfortunately, they already made their. She goes, I feel like they've already made a decision before. No matter what you would have done differently, they were taking your children.
Well, yeah, because until they get the children in their custody, they can't get very much money.
Yeah,
It's like once they're in your custody, then all of a sudden they can move money into their coffers. And I'm surprised about Iowa. You're the first person from Iowa. I've met pretty much people from every state, whether they're from Pueblo, Colorado, or Pennsylvania, or New York, or things like that. They all have something in common. And I thought it was only isolated. I thought it was only California. And at first, when I started hearing the stories, and I've heard hundreds and hundreds of stories, I thought it was really isolated, but it's not. It's a sad state of affairs out there that, for some reason, and I don't know, maybe something's got to be changed at the federal level about our social service system. I think it's
I've read about people going to the federal courts and their rights were violated, their constitutional rights have been violated, and have that. And I've tried to do research on how I could do that myself, but it's overwhelming. There's so much
oh, it
information
is. And
in the right direction.
it's like unless you're rich like Donald Trump and can pay for attorneys to fight.
Right,
I mean, that guy of anybody in the country is. I can never do what he did. He's fighting every battle he can. Of course, everybody trying to make him so
right,
that the people that don't want him president are fighting just the opposite way. But it's like money is really, really the driving force between any issue. If you want to make changes, I mean,
right.
our Congress is always fighting about money, appropriate money where, appropriate money there, and so forth. So, yeah, it is hard, and the innocent people like yourself right now, and I'm trying to think of ways to get you so they can help with your two children. You do want to stay with your daughter, who's 20, who has a respectable job and has her own thing there. You mentioned a friend of yours that
Yes.
was well to do and stuff like that. Would she be willing to help you out financially, or?
Financially, not so much because I mean she's well off, but they have a lot of their own bills, a lot of stuff going on in their own home,
Oh, okay. All right.
But
Okay.
as in for opening their home up to even me and the girls, or just the girls, or whatever she has to do, she was willing to do, and so she went and filed the motion to intervene, and to her she had to prove that she was blood family, and I said, tell them about the fictive kin, because I read a lot about that where family is not always blood, and she has a strong relationship with the girls, and to replace them,
Well, I knows that if you have a child with somebody, then both your genes in there. But let's say that person that you later become has other children, there's that person's blood in that child. And if they go ahead and you two produce a child, then you got blood there. So it's like stepchildren sometimes. It's like,
right?
it's kind of like that. But is there any deadlines coming up or anything? I mean,
They
where are you
won't tell
at?
me. I've tried to see I because of course I've been told that once they're adopted, there's nothing more that we can do. Um, uh, they won't tell me nothing. They said my rights are terminated. And I can't know nothing.
Well, if something illegally was done wrong, that's what appeals are all about. They got to find something that they didn't do that is a law thing. Not they won't appeal is not to rehear your case. It's to find out what law did they violate, what thing did they not do, like did they not present you with something, did they not follow through on something. That's where you could get them on an appeal. But then again, it takes a lot of time to do an appeal, a lot of work. I mean, these attorneys do a lot of work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of things they
Mhm.
have to do, and it's really hard. Um, did your last time you saw your children? What? How long ago was it?
It was
Your
last June at the
last
restaurant.
June. And at that last visit, what happened then?
We seen them at the rest area with their foster family. I went up to them. My daughter, they both just hugged me and just held on to me and cried. We were happy at first, and then
How did
it
you
was
get to the rest area? I mean, how did you guys meet? I mean, was it prearranged or what?
coincidence. We just happened of all places in the universe at that time. We were both right there. I ran up to him,
Oh,
and the foster mom kind of was taken. I think she was nervous at first because I ran up. I'm like, I told her who I was, and I didn't want to scare her. And I asked her, I'm like, is it okay if I hug the girls, like, and their mom, and she was like, sure. And we sat on the ground and talked. We exchanged numbers. She said she'd send me some pictures because she took pictures of me with the girls, and um, I never heard from her again.
yeah. That's because the social worker said that
Yeah,
what
that's what I
you did
said.
was wrong, and she wanted to. Oh, that's terrible, terrible.
My daughter bawled and cried, and then the worker told my older daughter that she says the girls ran into some people this weekend and it set her back away. So she's having more intense therapy sessions now because she's not doing well. Well, she wants her family. Of course, she's not doing good. You're taking her family away from her, the ones who love
Yeah,
her.
little kids don't understand. Little kids don't understand. Even
I
older
keep,
kids
I
don't
keep thinking she's
understand.
just wondering why I left her that day. She's probably thinking, why didn't you take me? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I have a 3-year-old. Her last words is, "Daddy, why do you have to go? Daddy, why do you have to go?" And she's now 32 years old, and I know she's married. I don't know if she has children, but it's like
She was
I
screaming for me as I walked away. It was so hard.
yeah. Oh, it is. It is. It's the hardest thing to sit there, and that was because of the divorce I was going through with my first wife, and so that was a hard thing. And they try to use that against you, by the way. Anytime you screw up, you do a divorce or you marry the wrong person, or that person happens to have a bad history of some hiccups along the way. Everybody has hiccups in life. It's a road, life. We're not born into this world with a manual of how to operate ourselves. We're
Right.
not born in this world with a manual of how to raise children. We learn from our parenting, we learn from taking classes and stuff like that, and listening to advice of others. But the hard thing about CPS is that I wish they had a goal of how can we get the family back together again. But see, that will not make any money for CPS. If the goal is to get the family together, they're not going to put them in foster care. If the goal is once a week to have these meetings, and I mean
Yeah.
meetings with professional help there, if you have a meeting and you're with your children and their therapists and attorneys who want to represent, all those people meet in a room, at least can discuss things and make a plan. So next week, we'll see how it goes and do those things. And a week after, we get better. But they don't because there's no money in that kind of arrangement. And until they break this cycle about it being important for our money, I don't know. Um, I know by electing the right judge would help, but even the judges are probably held because social services paying the judge. I mean, I heard that a judge plays golf with 3 or 4 of the social workers. They have dinner together, and when they have that kind of arrangements, they're not going to be they're going to be
Right.
biased. They're not going to be there. They want to get paid. For all I know, they're getting sidekicks under the table. For all you know, they're getting kickbacks. And I hate to say
Yeah.
it, is that it's all about the money thing on there. Have you talked to advocate rights in your area in Iowa? Is there other
I can't
moms
find
like
any.
yourself?
I've tried to find advocates or support groups or anything I could find that could point me in the right direction and help me or nothing. You just
Yeah.
get home empty handed.
Wow. Wow.
I just don't know what to do. I know I need to find an attorney, I guess, for my daughter, for
Well,
her to get an attorney,
yeah.
but
In fact, it's a good time I tell everybody the number to call in.
yeah.
It's 888-888-6582. That's the law offices of Vincent W. Davis. He is a licensed attorney in all states. He is a trial attorney, has trial experience. He's a family law attorney. He knows about children and how to fight. He's an advocate about CPS. Um, he has the bottom of this broadcast. There's a bullet that's running, and he'll give up to 30 minutes of consultation. There's a website you can check his schedule and
Okay.
set your appointment and so forth. But I think it'd be really good to um, talk to him about strategies. He'll
Uh-huh.
tell you whether or not you're wasting your time. And the thing is, you never want to waste your time. Like, what is your game plan right now? What do you want to do right now?
If I could just get them in the care of my daughter, I mean, if I could have anything I wanted, of course, to be back at home with me and my rights reinstated, which that's very not as realistically possible as getting them back just in with my daughter, so they're at least at home with family and they be in my life still.
Yeah, yeah. So, is there anything that you're not completed, or anything that the social, the child protection services could hold against you?
No, no,
Right. And have you gotten a job now? Or are you still living
yeah,
home with?
yeah, I'm working. I am living with my mom still at this point because it's pointless for me really now to have my own place, and we split bills, and it's easier on both of
Right.
our pocketbooks. But
Yeah, roommate. There's nothing wrong with being with your mom. A lot of children, their parents live together. I understand. I understand.
and my mom even tried to get custody of the girls too, but they just push everybody away. The worker, and what the other thing is too is the foster mom. The foster mom's best friend is the DHS worker's daughter. So the worker's daughter, I feel like she had this her worker, the daughter of the worker's best friend, can't have kids. Oh, get registered as a foster mom, and I'll find you some kids. And she found these two cute little girls and placed them with her. And that's where the worker told my daughter, I think it's a good match for the family, and they want to adopt. So that's what we're doing.
Did you know that foster parents receive money until the
Yes.
child is 18? Do you know they receive money
Yeah.
to raise that child? You know how much of a business that is? People are not aware of that. They don't believe, I
Yeah.
mean, they think that once they adopt a child or foster care, they're on their own. But that's not the case. They
Yeah.
are given so much money. I could not believe how much money that goes out. When I started having children at an older age, my Social Security I was getting, they gave Social Security to my children. Well, when my daughter got adopted out, they gave the money from my retirement, from my Social Security that I earned and paid taxes on. They continued to give it to that family, who that family was uh, at least a quarter of a million together in income, had enough money, but they were given my money that I could have used for my other children or for myself, because at Social Security, I'm 74 years now, and I still have to go out and get a job because I need money to survive, because all my money is spent with CPS, all my savings, everything that I received is spent fighting to have it. And I have my two boys back, but my two boys are not the same. Social services has really hurt my family. It still continues to hurt them. It's like they're both of age now where they can't be touched anymore. Um, and me being an older person, they're supposed to protect the elderly. They don't care about that. There's no money, I guess, in me. I feel like I'm worthless now. Um, I have always worked all my life. I've worked 59 years of my life, and that's a long time. And I've been working all my life and always paid all my bills and always did all that. And I have my hiccup at my late life is wrong. I mean, mine happened in 2015, and it was a hard, hard thing. It happened so quick and so fast. And foolish me didn't get an attorney because I thought, oh, I don't need an attorney. I know what I'm doing. I'm good at talking. I'm good at writing things. I'm good at determining the law and stuff. And right now, at the time, the reason I was having my problems and my neglect was my parents were dying, and because I had my family's belongings in my belongings, it gave sort of a cluttered effect. There were boxes stacked 3 boxes high. And he said, "Oh my God, that's going to hurt. A 15-year-old child or a 12-year-old child is going to come topple down on them." And so that's the only neglect that they convicted me of. And um, they tried to come up with other things, but it just wasn't. And again, I did in the end hire Vincent W. Davis, and he got my 2 boys back. But my daughter would have cost a lot more money, and I had pretty much run out of funds, even though we have a lawsuit against them. But it's really hard. The rights of a parent or a father were really abused in my case, and it's really hard. I know uh, it's you're experiencing it at a young age. You're probably in your 30s, right? Yeah, so you got a lot of years ahead of you, and to experience something when you're in your 60s is really wrong. It's supposed to be your golden years, supposed to retire and things like that. So I've had to go through this trauma effect and every day, and um, I try to share my story to help other people. That you need the first step you do is one, you never speak to a social worker, never talk to them without an attorney present. And then I've lost your voice there, Tiffany. Are you still there? I don't hear your voice. Your voice there. That's okay. Just be aware with. I don't know why your voice has stopped. Um, there you go.
Somehow I was muted. I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
But what was the question
Yeah.
you asked me again?
Um,
I said I did say though I wish I knew then what I know now because
right.
I
Yes. We
know
all like to need that. I mean, if I opened up my heart, I told the truth, and they used that against you.
against you. Yeah.
And no matter what you did or what you went through, I had to go through things. The people that go to the parenting classes were in their 20s, in their teens. No one was my age. Even it was really sad. I mean, the person conducting the class was not even that old. So
Yeah.
I went through the whole thing. I lived the whole gamut. And I'm trying to tell you that you need to do what's best for you. I know children are really important, but you need to focus, keep that job, take care of your mother because she needs you. She really does need you. Don't give up your love for your child. See your other children, and someday you'll be able to bring them together. But I do want you to contact Vincent W. Davis and see what
Yes, I will do that.
strategies he could do it because it's only a phone call away. Again, for people out there, it's 888-888-6582, and that's the law office of Vincent W. Davis. He's a licensed professional attorney. He's a trial attorney. He's a family law attorney. He knows how to protect your children, how to get your children
Yes,
back.
I will do that for sure.
Yeah, and he's one of the best attorneys around, and he will come to other states and so forth. Yes, it is expensive, but like anything else, it's sometimes you can't put the price on your child for love. I mean, it really is. I mean, I exhausted all my funds. I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, I made Child Protection Service a very rich agency. That's all I know I've done. And they have a building that you'd be appalled at. It's 20 stories tall. It's glass. It's state of the art. It looks like something futuristic. They need to pay for that building, and people walk around. My social worker was always with a new Gucci purse every week, or a new dress, a new outfit, makeup, everything. You can see that she definitely was paid well, and the bonuses they give bonuses to them, and it's really, really, really sad. I don't know how the social workers look in Iowa, but you can tell when. Oh, lost your mic's muted. You need to unmute it again. There
There
you
we
go.
go. My worker came on today and he had a brand new BMW he just bought. So
There you go. See, he got a brand new. Now,
yeah,
what kind of social worker makes that kind of money to get a brand new BMW?
right.
I mean,
Fresh
you
as
know,
thought.
and in fact, in our state of California, it was so sad that our governor was short on funds. So the first person that he attacked was a social worker, and he cut back all their funding for them. And these social workers were in their 40s and 50s. They were people that were experienced in family. They got rid of them all. So now they've flooded the social workers with people um, don't speak the common language, that are very young and think they
Mhm.
know everything by the time they're 21. And I tell you, the work with children and parents of children and stuff, you have to be a parent yourself. I don't know if the CPS worker was a mom, or had children, or what, Tiffany. Do you know anything about your social worker?
Yeah, only that he was an ex cop. He had two sons that were older. Um, I believe he was married still, but I'm not for sure. For sure. Um, that was all. All he ever told me about himself was he was an ex cop. He used to be a cop. He made sure I knew that all the time.
Well, he didn't. He did. He spoke like a cop instead of like somebody with a warm heart or wants to help you.
Yep.
Did he look you in the eye? We had good eye contact.
No. And he was very rarely there. Maybe he was supposed to be there an hour once a month. The longest was one time for 8 minutes.
Well, then he's definitely just doing his time. And somebody that doesn't make good eye contact, you got to be careful of them because they're hiding things.
Yep.
They don't
He
believe
lied. He
what
lied during. He lied about little things sometimes, or he told me he didn't say anything. I'm like, yes, you did. I have to argue with him about it. And
yeah, that's the sad part. You can never stand up. I tried to argue with my social workers. I went to their bosses. I went to the top boss, the top dog, and met with him. It went
I
in
feel like
one
I got in more
ear.
trouble when I did that.
Yeah, went in one ear, went out the other ear, and boy, did I get in trouble for that.
My
It was
situation got way worse every time I tried telling somebody.
Yeah, it's definitely not the way it is. And in fact, they dragged it out 3 years. Most of these cases, for your listeners, should only last a year, they say. They have
Mine were two and a
45,
half years.
yeah, they have 45 days to investigate, or they have to give you a documentation why it's taking longer. And they have to go to court, and they have to get the judge to enter the case plan and what the allegations are. And I shouldn't say allegations, what you're guilty of, because again, it's sad. You are guilty till you're proven innocent. And that
Yeah.
is so hard to prove your innocency when you're already guilty. I mean, it's like,
It's me fighting all of them. And I always felt like that we were supposed to be in there working on a plan together, and it was always them against me. And it shouldn't be like that.
was your courtroom crowded? Do you have a lot of people in the
No,
hallways?
nobody could come in there except for the
No, I mean,
you
out in the hallway, was
know,
it
nobody
crowded?
was out there at all. Nobody. It's
Well, you're
empty.
lucky. In my case, it was like standing room only. No chairs, no seats or anything. And it was like a cattle. It was like people being shuffled in and out. And I saw the look of a lot of these people, and it was a sad look. I talked to a lot of them. A lot of them had come across the border, had settled into our country, and were trying to take care of their children. And the things that they were doing are taught in their country may have worked well, but didn't work well here, or they're misled. They're so misleading. It is so terrible right now. We have a bad crunch in the states that border the Mexican border there. Texas and Arizona and California are really influx, as well as the rest of the country is now, because people are showing up everywhere.
Right.
But it's becoming a real serious problem. And I think we need to contact our representatives to try to do something to correct what is transpiring. Um, it's it's an uphill battle, and I hope I got to end the show here, but I hope that you uh, contact Vincent W. Davis, and I hope that you get your uh, uh, two children back and stay in touch with them and don't give up your faith. Keep your faith going and so forth. And thank you so much, Tiffany, for
Yeah, thank
sharing your
you.
story. And I hope maybe I shared some ideas or things here, but
Yeah.
look at all your documents. Go and research them. By law, they have to give them to you. It
Okay.
is the law. You just have to sometimes go to higher up. So, with
All right.
that being said, Happy New Year
You
to
too.
you and all our listeners. And God bless you and thank you again.
Thank you.